Fellas, it's that time of the year again.
Valentine's Day.
And now it's time to get her that very special gift. Look at this miserable fool here. Hey yo, looking for a Valentine's Day gift? But you ain't got money to spare, huh? Say no more. I got you, boss. This Valentine's Day, change your girl's reality with a gift that transcends time and space. With this, you'll have the power of love by your side and will touch her soul and finally put her mind at ease. Damn right. Infinity Stones. Love at the snap of your fingers. Gauntlet sold separately. Please read instructions before snapping.
Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome once more to another episode of Eugene Reviews. I am Eugene. It's currently January 25th, 2021 as I'm recording this, so we are about less than 2 weeks away from Super Bowl 55 in Tampa, with the AFC champion Kansas City Chiefs taking on the NFC champion Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And with this scheduled to come out on the 12th of February, I'm actually going to miss out on the fallout from that game. But I'll go ahead and give my predictions. Once again, today is the 25th, and if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. If I'm right, I am a god. I'm going to say the Kansas City Chiefs win 34-28. That's my prediction right there. But speaking of gods, today we are going back again to the Marvel Cinematic Universe as we are going to explore the demigod once more in his third theatrical film, which is the 17th Marvel Cinematic Universe film, and it is Thor Ragnarok. Now, Thor Ragnarok came out November 2017. I recall watching that film with a bunch of friends, and I'm not gonna lie, that was the first time I was actually eager to watch a Thor film. The first Thor film in theaters I didn't see, unfortunately, but I did enjoy watching it when it came out in home video. The second Thor film didn't really grab me, but I was semi-interested to see what the direction was going to be for this particular film. But after watching all the previews, knowing who was going to be at the helm of direction, and really the vibe and overall feel of this film, I could not wait to see this movie. But did it end up turning out the way that I imagined it? Let's go through all the acts, starting with Act 1 on the development for the third Thor film in the franchise, Thor Ragnarok. Act 1, development, Thor Ragnarok, take 1. So in that famed Phase 3 slate announcement on October 2014, it was announced that Thor Ragnarok was going to be coming out as a part of that phase. And it will be stated later on by producer and CEO of Marvel Studios, Kevin Feige, that Thor 3 would be an important film in the Phase 3 portion of the MCU. Now, all but confirmed, now it's time to get to work on Thor 3, now called Thor Ragnarok. And Ragnarok simply translates to the end of all things. Now, Thor the Dark World director Alan Taylor did not reprise his role as director for Thor Ragnarok, as he had stated during his experience in the second Thor film that he had the freedom to create his own film and direct his own film, only to be given a completely different film upon post-production. So it was a very indifferent and inauthentic experience that he was promised, which led him to not truly feel comfortable in returning for the third film. So that opens the chair up. Who could possibly be the director for this third and monumental installment of the Thor saga? In comes New Zealand director, writer, producer, and storyteller Taika Waititi. Now, I know everybody was wondering at that time, who the hell is Taika Waititi? Well, Dalton, if you sit down and listen, here's what you'll find out. Now, Taika Waititi was more of an independent filmmaker at the time and had been famously known recently for his great work in the comedy mockumentary What We Do in the Shadows. Upon the search for the new director, they asked all of the potential nominees to give short little films of what they feel the vibe of the new film was going to be. When Taika was given this task, he basically made an entire sizzle reel of footage from previous Thor films and snippets of Led Zeppelin's famous song, The Immigrant Song, which is actually the same song that they implemented and that you heard in all the previews in Thor Ragnarok. So obviously you can tell they were impressed because they included that into the trailers and they made Taika Waititi director of the film. Thor would obviously see the return of its famed demigod Chris Hemsworth. You've got Tom Hiddleston back as Loki. You even got Anthony Hopkins back as Odin. And even you've got Idris Elba back as Heimdall. But the new additions, I think, is what's an eye-opening thing. Mark Ruffalo, who plays Bruce Banner, aka Hulk, is included in this film. And it's obvious with his inclusion, there's a little bit of influence of Planet Hulk into the storyline. You've got the main baddie, the antagonist, Hela, played by Academy Award winner Cate Blanchett. You've got Valkyrie, played by Tessa Thompson, who was also included. And the quirky yet demonstrative master of Sakaar, the Grandmaster, played by none other than Jeff Goldblum. A couple of noticeable absence, Jane Foster, played by Natalie Portman, and Lady Sif, played by Jamie Alexander, who both played in both Thor films, did not return for this film. It was stressed notably that other than Bruce Banner, aka Hulk, they didn't want any Earth elements to be involved in the film. They wanted this all to be strictly cosmic based. So no major sequences on Earth except for the one with Doctor Strange, but everything else in the cosmos. So Sakaar, Asgard, only in those two places. And obviously you can tell based on the previews that it felt like this film was sort of a reinventing, a rehashing of this franchise. The first two films had similar identities, similar tones, more seriously based under its entire plot. But watching the previews for this and seeing really kind of the overall vibe, you see that this film is really kind of more upbeat, more flamboyant, more funny, more charming, and something that's completely 180 of what we saw from the previous Thor films. It could be a good thing, it could be a bad thing, who knows? We'll check it out on Act 2. But a recap on Act 1, once again, this being overly stated, this is an important film for Phase 3. The addition of Taika Waititi and his audition process in which he made a sizzle reel consisting of footage from the previous two films. The addition of Mark Ruffalo, Cate Blanchett, Tessa Thompson, Jeff Goldblum, and the absence of Natalie Portman and Jamie Alexander. No Earth involvement whatsoever. And finally, this being a reinvention of the character of Thor in comparison to the other previous two films. So once again, could this be good? Could this be bad? Let's find out in Act 2 for the execution of Thor Ragnarok. Act 2, Execution, Thor Ragnarok, Take 1. So as you've seen from my previous videos, I don't really put Thor or Thor Dark World on such high scales when it comes to the overall spectrum of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. But Thor Ragnarok, the fact that it doesn't take itself really too seriously, the fact that it's such a completely different vibe compared to the other two films, it makes it that much more awesome. I found this film very fun. I found this film hilarious. I found this film just a joy to see overall. There's quirkiness behind it. It just feels like an action comedy overall. But don't make it feel like that it substitutes its action for humor. No, not at all. There's plenty of action to be had throughout this entire film. The Thor and Hulk battle in Sakaar was monumental. The entire ending sequence in Asgard, there's plenty of action sequences to be seen, and not to mention visually how just much of a treat it was, I think adds on to the flair of its overall action execution. I don't recall seeing any other realm or any other planet in the cosmos being that colorful and very saturated and just bountiful with its vibrant colors. And really you have to owe all of this vision and all of this scenery to the addition of Taika Waititi. The guy really knows how to kind of put a picture on screen and really convey a story from that image. It truly is spellbinding. As I mentioned, the film doesn't substitute its action with comedy. It more so blends it in, but it also adds an underlying tone of loss. Thor loses his father in the beginning of the movie. During the middle of the film, he finds out that his lineage, his Asgardian heritage, was a foundation built on lies. Not to mention, he loses an eye. And then finally, at the end of the film, he sees his home of Asgard destroyed. So amidst all the comedy, all the laughter, all of the action, and all of the great hoorah sequences, there's actually some deep and darker tones underlying throughout the entire film. So yes, plenty of loss in this film. His heritage, his father, his home, his eye. Come on. And honestly, it wouldn't exude and convey such a great movie and portrayal had it not been for some great performances, particularly from Chris Hemsworth himself. I do feel like every Thor film, as well as every Avenger film that Chris Hemsworth is in, it just heightens and develops the character of Thor even more. But I think the biggest step in characterization and character arcs came from this particular movie. Yeah, you see him in the process of him actually becoming a king in the first film. You see him in the process of dealing with kingsmanship in the second film. But I think this third film really sets the bar and really shows how big of a step it takes for him to realize who he truly is. Yes, he's a king. Yes, he's a warrior. Yes, he's an Avenger, but he's really the god of thunder. So kudos for a great performance from him. I do enjoy the performance from Tom Hiddleston, Loki. Hela, played by Cate Blanchett, was an exceptional performance. The addition of Tessa Thompson was pretty nice too. And then the quirkiness of Jeff Goldblum being Jeff Goldblum. It's like Robert Downey Jr. being Robert Downey Jr. Jeff Goldblum is gonna Jeff Goldblum. And it doesn't feel like Jeff Goldblum's playing the Grandmaster. It just feels like Jeff Goldblum's playing himself, but with Cosmo-based, Sakaar-based attire and wardrobe. Thor Ragnarok checks off all the boxes and really shows a reinvention of the character of Thor and the overall inclusion of this particular character in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. It was an interesting uptake of a story. It was an interesting underlying tone of loss. It was a great blend of action and comedy. I think that everything about this film just makes me feel like, okay, this is a fun Thor film. This is what Thor should be. Even though it just feels like it strays away from its true identity, this is something that's both entertaining, understanding, and something that's just full of wonder when you see it all throughout. So fun, hilarious tone, great blend of action and comedy, the underlying tone of loss when he loses his father, he loses his sense of heritage with the lineage of his family with Hela, the loss of his eye, the loss of his hammer, the loss of his home of Asgard. Great performances from Hemsworth, from Hiddleston, from Blanchett, from Tessa, from Goldblum, from everybody in this film. And I guess we gotta give it up for Taika Waititi for giving us such a quirky, unique, but yet mesmerizing showcasing of Thor. All right, so with that down and out, let's go ahead and hit the response on Act 3 for Thor Ragnarok. Act 3. Response. Thor Ragnarok, take one. So to say that Thor Ragnarok ended up being a success is a true understatement. The film ended up with $854 million worldwide. Let me put that in perspective. The first Thor film worldwide made $450 million. With the release of the first Avengers film, I'm sure that boosted the second film to get $645 million. But now, with everyone understanding who Thor is, but also seeing really what kind of vibe this film was going to present, now it goes up to $850 million. Just the steep, boundless steps that it took each and every single film. And not to mention just how big of a step this took between films from the second one to the third one. That's very impressive, to say the least. To some, at least in the community, a matter of fact, mostly a lot of people will label Thor Ragnarok as one of their favorite films, if not also the best film in the MCU. And finally, for those who didn't know who Taika Waititi is, now you know who he really is. Let's just talk about two of the things that came out after Thor Ragnarok for Taika Waititi. His little indie movie, What We Do in the Shadows, was made into a show for FX. The Mandalorian on Disney Plus, created by Jon Favreau, had plenty of great directors involved in each of their episodes, one including Taika Waititi. And probably the biggest accolade since Thor Ragnarok for Taika, winning an Academy Award for Best Adapted Screenplay for Jojo Rabbit. I'm not saying Marvel put him on the map, but I'm sure everybody now knows who he is because of what he did in Thor Ragnarok. And now, because of that success, as well as the string of success that followed, Taika Waititi is now in the top tier directors, writers, storytellers in Hollywood. So the impact for Thor for the MCU probably compares, if not is minuscule, to the success that is parallel to Taika Waititi's rising stardom. And not gonna lie, I had not known about Taika prior, did my studying, found about What We Do in the Shadows, which is hilarious, and watched Jojo Rabbit, which I thought was wondrous. And now I'm on board as a Taika Waititi fan. And I'm happy that not only Marvel decided to hire him to be a director, but also decided to put him in to direct the next Thor film, Thor Love and Thunder. It shows that now Taika Waititi is someone to really kind of hold on to, is really someone to invest in. So once again, $854 million in the box office. This steep increase and overall drastic improvement between the first and second films, financially at least. People deeming this as one of their favorites and one of the best MCU films in the entire catalog, and the upstart rising stardom of one Taika Waititi. Once again, not saying it was because of the MCU he's famous, but now more eyes are on him because of this, thus leading to more opportunities, thus leading to him to get more notoriety with Jojo Rabbit, and now he's one of the best, one of the most asked for writers and directors in all of Hollywood. All right, with all that down, let's go ahead and hit quickly my verdict for Thor Ragnarok. As I mentioned previously, I did not see the first Thor film in theaters. Thor: The Dark World was something to be somewhat anticipating for, and coming out of the theater was okay in scale, but nothing that just jumps out of the pages. I had not left a Thor film or finished watching a Thor film feeling that excited and that thrilled and that entertained like I did with Thor Ragnarok. Ragnarok is brilliant. It's vibrantly appeasing. It's colorful, illustrious. It's full of action. It's full of comedy. It's quirky at times, but in a fun and very, very truly entertaining way. There's great underlying tones, especially with loss in this film, that I felt was something that initially is overlooked, but really watching back and watching it again and understanding really everything that transpired, you say to yourself, like, damn, that was really deep. Despite it being filled with flamboyant and vibrant action pieces and, you know, quirky bits of comedy left and right. Amidst all that, there's some great storytelling and nice underlying tone that makes this stand out and makes this a true reinventing of Thor, and something that I can say I can get behind when it comes to Thor as a character in the franchise and as a film series for the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Great performances, great set pieces. I loved every second of it. This was really a remarkable film to behold, something that makes me believe in the Thor franchise fully now that they have full belief on Taika Waititi to deliver. And let's hope that we can replicate the same value and the same energy and same success that the third film did with Thor Love and Thunder. Bottom line, Thor Ragnarok for me comes out with a rating of 8.5 out of 10. As this is the 17th film in the MCU that is chronologically out, and the 18th film that we've done overall, you know that I'm doing a ranking of all of the films. So somewhere on this, I'm going to put the ranking from best to worst in regards to the MCU. So let me try it this way. Worst, sorry, Thor: The Dark World. To best. I don't know if it's all gonna fit in this spectrum or in this allotted space, but you get my drift. Anyways, with that out of the way, that concludes this episode of Eugene Reviews. Thank you everyone for tuning in. What did you guys think of Thor Ragnarok? Did you enjoy the film? Did you think this was a good reinvention of the character and the storyline overall? Have you heard of Taika Waititi before then? Do you know who's Taika Waititi now? Do you want to know what other works that he has done that you want to take a look at? Jump into the comment section. Let me know what you thought about it. Let me know any and all questions that you had. Any and all questions and inquiries are welcome, except for you trolls. Like, share, subscribe, comment. Also hit the bell notification on YouTube so you can be alerted whenever new videos are released for Eugene Reviews. Be sure to also follow me on Instagram and Twitter, both at Eugene Reviews. By this time, you should already see the top 5 recommendations from January, and soon, if not already, I'll have the top 5 recommendations for February, just in time for Valentine's Day. So with that out, thank you again, once again, for tuning in. I appreciate you guys for all your love and support. Once again, as I always say, thank you, and I hope that you enjoy watching these as much as I enjoy doing these. Can't wait for more to commence throughout the month of February. Actually, on the release date of this video, I'm gonna be in Orlando at Disney World with my girlfriend. So you can expect I'm gonna be putting out some kind of vlog and retrospect of our time there. So be on the lookout for that and then some more. So thank you guys once more for tuning in. God bless. This is Eugene signing off for another episode of Eugene Reviews, and I will see you guys again very soon for another episode. And that is a wrap.